evening. Hi.
Hey, ma'am. Good evening. How are you?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm also good. Thank you for asking. Uh, you know, your smile, it just brightened the evening.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I was just telling our followers about, your background, and I gave a brief introduction of yours to them, and everybody was very intrigued to know that how an engineering student from IIT Kharagpur who worked at Deutsche Bank had a very lucrative and promising career, decided to suddenly give all that up and then, start preparing for UPSC. How did you make that decision?
Yeah, so I've answered this question so many times, and yeah, I wouldn't lie, the pay was much, much better. I think I was paid many times higher than what I'm being paid now here. But to each his or her own, right? The same was my case. In my case, what I was being paid wasn't the core derivative I wanted from my professional career. To give
Right,
a little bit of a background, while I was in my college, I started an NGO. I had worked on that front as well. And I am someone that values diversity of experiences. So since I had done my NGO work, I had this bug that I wanted to do something on the social front. While I was working at
right,
Deutsche Bank, I had this feeling that after working for about a year, I knew that this is the right time to give civil services. So then I quit and I appeared for the exams, and now I'm here. After having worked for some time, I'll tell you this is the best decision I've made. I'm really happy with how the work profile is here in the government sector.
right. Yes, while I was going through your LinkedIn profile, I saw the Feed India initiative that you chairperson at that time. So I'd like you to tell us something about that also.
So, giving you some more background, when I was in college, I had done an internship in my third year. That was same Deutsche
Right,
Bank investment banking intern, and I had already gotten a pre-placement offer, which is by the
right,
end of third year, when you're done with your internship, that was my final year. So I didn't have any burden of appearing
right,
for placements, which is why I wanted to utilize it and do something which I may not be doing in the later part of my career. So me, along with some of my friends who are also socially motivated, we had begun this NGO called Feed India. So
right,
that takes food wasted or food leftovers and distributes it to the needy. It was a basic idea we were experimenting to build an application so that we can involve some technology in matching the supply demand mismatch. But later on, my friends also had to sit
right,
for their placements, and I myself had to go and do my full time job. The NGO had been closed.
right. Okay. So, ma'am, people from engineering background, so only three core subjects are available in the list of optionals. And metallurgical, engineering is not one of them.
Yeah.
So I think before starting your preparation, I guess everybody is in a dilemma about what to choose, which subject to choose as an optional. So how did you choose sociology as your optional, and what was your game plan for this optional subject?
Hmm. So this is like such an important decision, and I feel like all aspirants should be very well informed before choosing their optional. It is the most
Right,
crucial thing we decide before starting preparation, and I'm highly against changing optionals after beginning preparation. And optional is one subject that deserves our commitment throughout the preparation. So for that, I recommend a very systematic approach. The first thing should be that don't always go after recommendations and suggestions of toppers or coaching teachers. So I request all
right,
aspirants to apply their own mind, to sit down with a list of optionals that UPSC is providing, to go through the syllabus of each and every optional, and then make a first shortlist of their preferred subjects. I did the same exercise, and I knew that I didn't want to take an engineering optional because there's also an element of interest involved, right? I wanted to study a humanities subject because that was completely new
right,
for me. So in my first round of shortlist, I ended up with anthropology, political science, and sociology. So this was purely based on interest and my comfort with the syllabus topics. After
right,
that, is at this stage, you take the advice or you go through the blogs and videos of toppers, and then you understand what is a scoring subject, which subject has the resources available or test series available, and based on that, you shortlist. So I had done this and I took sociology purely based on my interest, and I also noticed that there's a lot of resources available. So it's both a comfortable optional to study as well as a decently scoring option.
Right, right. So, ma'am, you cleared, in 2018, it was your second attempt, and you cleared it in your second attempt, and you secured a rank of 233 and IPS services. Why did you prepare again for the exam? Like a lot of people who don't get the IAS wala thing, they prepare again, but I want to know what was your reason.
I didn't really know that I was getting IPS when I started preparing for the exam. All my friends would
Right,
vouch that I'm a huge fan of both the services, both IPS and IAS. I was really happy. I was, in fact, elated. I had joined. I was doing training when I got this rank for IAS. I was very happy that I was in the
right,
IPS. I loved that service. The intention behind giving the exam was never to leave IPS. It was just that I wasn't sure whether I'll be getting IPS or IAS that time. I was 233, right? I was just in the general category.
yeah.
It was one of the last ranks which got IPS in that year. So because I was unsure, I'd gone ahead and given prelims and mains. After that, I got to know that I'll be getting IPS, and I was super happy. I was in MPA giving training. Then I got 46th rank, and I thought, okay, let me join IAS now.
Yeah. Perfect, perfect. So, ma'am, how was your training? Tell us about your training also at Hyderabad.
Hyderabad IPS training is amazing. So I had little background in martial arts. I practiced karate and I had black belt, but that was in school time. After that, I didn't do any kind of sports activities. In college, I was mostly a so-called person doing a lot of social cultural activities. So going to NPA
Right,
was like, it opened a lot of doors. They have a rigorous regime. They involve you in a lot of physical activity and they introduce you to new things. Like we started to learn firing for the first time. It was the first time I took a weapon and I learned how to fire. And for the first time, I had to overcome my phobia for animals. And then they taught us horse riding. They teach you swimming, diving, rock climbing. It's a plethora of experiences you have. So I had done phase one of training of IPS. That was a beautiful experience. And I would say the same thing about IAS training as well. And we all know how everybody is a big fan of Labasna in Masuri, this beautiful
yes,
picturesque place. So even IAS training has been very exciting. They have a lot of courses being taken by professors abroad from reputed good universities abroad as well. So that is also something new that they're trying out in IAS training.
right, right, right. That's fantastic. In the services, what like picturize Labasna and NPA both as their, foremost destinations where they want to reach. So I think our viewers will be really intrigued to know about both these places. That's why I took up this question. Um, so, ma'am, I think there are two areas in the entire preparation phase that confuses students and aspirants a lot. For example, when we talk about essay writing, so it's not something that can be learned from books. I think it's a creative process as well, and it requires rigorous amount of practice. So tell us about essay preparation, because I saw that you got like 131 marks in your paper one in 2018 in the essay, which is a pretty great score.
Yeah.
So share some tips and tell us and our students that how should they prepare for essay paper.
So firstly, I'd like to make it clear that I belong to the school of thought which says that essay is less of a creative process. It is also a paper in the exam. So it has to be treated
Right,
that way, that you give it the same respect and a little bit of time and it will show up in the form of a high score, as in my case. So essay was one of my favorite papers. Essay and ethics were my favorite papers in the exam because it involved a lot of writing. It involved reading up a lot of creative material, exploring newer. Am I audible
perfect.
now? I had a power cut. I mean, the weather is not good here. We're having thunderstorms. Am I audible and visible
Uh,
now?
yes, ma'am. You're perfectly audible and visible. And the same problem is with me also. There's a power cut and the weather is not
Yeah,
clear at all.
sorry about that. So, you were asking me about essay strategy, right? Since
Yes,
essay and
ma'am.
ethics were my favorite papers, I always kept them reserved for when I was feeling a little burnt out or I didn't want to prepare for the other papers. I would
Right,
practice my essay and ethics in that time. For essay, what I did was I would go through a lot of toppers copies. The ones that are
right,
available on coaching websites where they upload the answer copies of toppers. I would go through a lot of these essays, and that gives you there is a flow with which you write essay, and you can only get that when you when you consume a lot of essay content as well. So during lunch hours, it was my favorite pastime to go through toppers essays. That is one thing I've done.
right,
The second thing is that I spent a lot of time with the previous year papers of essay and ethics. you need to analyze and understand what kind of questions UPSC asks, how it terms its essays, and then mentally think about what you would write in that case. The third thing is that
Right.
in both my attempts, I had taken a test series because without that push for you to give a test every week or every 2 weeks, we wouldn't get ourselves to sit down and write an essay for 3 hours, to write those two essays for
Right.
3 hours. So test series always helps. The fourth thing I would say is that have very good content ready. It always helps to note down a couple of a set of introductions, quotations, conclusions, all of this value added material. It always helps to
Right.
add them in your essay. And the last thing is that to have a very not just for the essay and ethics papers, for all of the papers, is to have an exam simulation at your home only. Whenever you give any test,
Right.
do not wait for completing all of your syllabus and then giving an exam. This is a famous mistake that so many aspirants do. We always wait for that ideal time when we finish reading all the sources, when we are completely ready and prepared, and then we'll give that mock test. Let me tell you, that is
Right.
never going to happen. Even rank one wouldn't be completely prepared to give a mock test. So we need to be disciplined about giving these mock tests at home, and we need to give them as if it is the final exam. Those 3 hours are all we've got. We need to get everything right, try to finish the paper in those 3 hours, and we need to practice how to give our essays or finish the ethics paper in that 3 hour limit. That is important.
Right. This is what we keep on telling the aspirants who follow us and, anybody who asks us for guidance because I think every topper says that emphasizes on the, importance of giving tests, but still students are very liberal with the schedule and, giving tests because they think कि अरे नहीं हो जाएगा बाद में हो जाएगा, we'll give it in the end, we'll give it 2 months before the exam is there. But that really never happens. And in the last 2 months, I guess the pressure is so much because you have to read so much. Even in case of prelims, there is a lot of value addition materials and compilations and final things that you have to read. That test actually takes the least priority, but I think it helps the most and it should be of the utmost priority, even before reading other things.
Right, right. I completely agree with you. Like, one of the reasons why I wanted to interact with aspirants at this stage is that prelims just got over. It was last weekend, right?
Exactly.
So I wanted to take the session now because I wanted to tell the aspirants that this 1 week you had, that's a good break. Now you have to get started with your mains grind. And the first and most important thing that you do for your mains preparation is to take a test series. Whatever else you do may or may not matter as much as sticking to a schedule of a test series. And it doesn't even matter which
Right.
coaching you take that test series from. You just take a test series, you stick to the schedule. Whether you're prepared or not, you keep giving the exam, you keep giving the mock test. Because in the final exam also, it wouldn't be like you studied this set of papers and went and you'll get it from there only. You'll get any question and you should always be mentally and prepared to answer any kind of question. So the test series is the most important thing. And mainly this happens after prelims is what I call death by information. There is so much information out there, so many sources claiming to be the best source for the exam, and so many toppers recommending so many different things. We just end up reading. But however, mains is an exercise where you have to reproduce the content that you have consumed throughout the year. So for that, test series is the only way out. You have to give it in a very disciplined manner. Do not uh, let the ideal imaginary situations in your mind get the best of you. You have to convince yourself that you follow the test schedule irrespective of your preparation levels.
Right. Coming back to this, I just wanted to know whether like for joining a test series for mains, which is the correct time? Like a lot of people say that, join the test series after prelims. Then a lot of people say that, from the beginning onwards, you should join the test series. So according to you, what is the ideal time of joining a test series for mains?
So according to me, the ideal time is immediately after prelims. So what
Right.
happens is, let's assume a beginner who is giving their first attempt. In that case, the first 1 year will go in covering the syllabus. You have to cover your static
Right.
books. You have to understand your current affairs, develop your own notes, have your own resources and all of that. So that takes almost
Right.
close to a year, and then you give your prelims. After that is when you take a test series, not during your
Yeah.
initial few months of preparation, because then you wouldn't even have the content. You would be confused about how you write. But if you take this test series immediately after prelims, you actually have a very good idea. You've finished your syllabus and everything. You look at the question, you have a fair idea of the content that you'll be writing. You just have to organize your thoughts and write it in a structured manner. So immediately after
Right.
prelims is the best time to take mains test series. And you have to give it in a very systematic way. Like I said, follow the schedule, give all the tests, give all the part tests, give all the full tests.
Right. And what about optional, ma'am? Like, what is the best way to prepare for optional? Because when do you start? When do you end? When do you start writing answers? When do you start taking test series? I also want to know about optional.
So I'll tell you what I had done. Mainly, I mean, having sociology in mind. So
Right.
optional coachings are typically smaller in duration than say mains or GS coachings, right? They last about 2 to 3 months. Similarly, I had taken coaching for my sociology optional as well. That was for around 3 months. And as soon as that ended, I started. No coaching is going to make you self-sufficient. You still have to keep relying on your own sources, on your own notes. So after the coaching ended, I started going through my own sources, writing my own notes. All of this was before prelims. So
Right.
before prelims, I finished completing all the subparts in my syllabus. I had my own notes. And then the last 2 months before prelims, I did exclusively prelim study. I've given
Right.
prelims similar to what I'm recommending now. I took a week off. And then when I came back to preparation, I had subscribed to a test series for optional. Just like other GS preparation, I was following the schedule. But one extra thing that I did for my optional is that me, along with another friend who had the same optional, both of us cleared in the same year as well. Both of us
Right.
would pick just two questions from previous year papers of sociology every day, two in paper one and two in paper two, and we would attempt those questions. So this wouldn't be a timed attempting of the questions. We would write the best answer we could, so that our thoughts on that topic or on that question would get organized, and even our retention rates were increasing when we did this exercise. So this is an exercise that I recommend to aspirants from most of the optionals, like say Anthros, Socio, PSIR, is that try attempting previous UPSC question papers, maybe one
Right.
or two questions per day. That will be a very good exercise to develop your answer writing in optional.
Right. Uh, Along with the test series, I also want to know about your, answer writing skills. Like, what was the flow that with which you wrote these answers, and how did you improve your answer writing? Like, was it a gradual process, or were you actually very good at the beginning itself? So, I'd like you to tell us about that.
So nobody is very good at the beginning, let me tell you, because UPSC is not just writing that one answer or two answers. That 20 questions in the exam, you just have 3 hours and you have to write all of them more or less above average manner to in order to get those
Right.
good scores. So it's not just about the quality, it's also about that speed of writing which you only get over time. I mean, in the beginning, the very first answer I had attempted in my free time when I was doing an answer writing practice, I took about 20 minutes just to attempt one question. You can
Yeah.
imagine that is never going to cut it. So in the beginning, yes, it did take me a very long time to attempt an answer, and even my thoughts would be very disorganized. But later, you develop that structured manner of thinking and answering, which is first you read the question, you understand what is the keyword and what is it that the question is seeking from you. And then you move on to writing a very simple introduction and dividing the answer into a few parts, such as, say, pros, cons going forward, or an analysis or a timeline of what happened. It depends on the question. So you have to structure your answer
Right.
that way. Also, I'm a huge fan of adding a lot of value add materials to my answers. I believe that does make a lot of difference in the scores. So for that, what I would do is I would note down all of the statistics reports at one place so that I would go through them again and again, revise them multiple times, which I could then add in my answers. There were also some diagrams, flowcharts that I would practice while giving test series, mock tests and answer writing practice, which I would then use in my answers while writing.
Right. So, ma'am, UPSC is a very long and tiring process. It requires an immense amount of patience.
Yeah.
Even if you clear in your very first, yeah, even if you clear in your very first attempt, still it takes 2 years to complete the entire process. It takes a toll on your mental health. A lot of students get dejected, uh, disappointed, depressed in the process of it. So I would like you to give a message or, say something to these students regarding their mental health and how to not let these things affect their mental health. So please tell us something about that.
This is such an important topic, and I must say, I have myself been through so much during the preparation. I've given this exam almost 2.5 to 3 years of my life, and it does put you through a lot. Firstly, it all arises from, say, comparison, where your peers are all going forward in their respective careers, and you're stuck in a process which seems never ending, because the exam from the start to end is about a year, and then if you miss at any stage, again, you have to start from the beginning. So, my advice is simple, that you have to focus on the aspects of the exam which you can control. I see recently, after looking at the prelims paper, so many aspirants are having this dilemma, like UPSC is unpredictable, unpredictable. But in the end, बात तो ये है कि this is a competitive exam. अगर मुश्किल है तो it is difficult for everybody,
Yes.
right? So you have to only focus on the controllable aspects of the exam. After that 1 year where you focus on what you can control, where you focus on your efforts and you focus on your discipline, no matter what happens at that stage, you need to accept the reality. You need to accept that if you have cleared the exam, great. If not, then you have to move on with your plan B. But during your preparation, you should not let this anxiety take over. Having said that, I would also say that self-doubt jo hai, it is very common. In fact, if you're not having self-doubt, then something is wrong with you.
Right.
But there's also a way of utilizing your self-doubt in a positive way. That is, your self-doubt and your anxiety or your fear can be channeled into your preparation, right? अगर वो डर नहीं है तो फिर
Right.
maybe we lack the equal amount of effort. So use your self-doubt to fuel your preparation. Let it be your motivation to put in extra hours, to study with greater focus. That is my
Right.
message. And yeah, mental health issues, ये सब तो होता रहेगा. You need to have a support system. So during my preparation, my mom and just one or two of my close friends, these were my support system. I would talk to them, I would vent out, and meditation really helps. Only during my aspirant time did I realize that meditation actually works, and all aspirants should be giving at least, say, 10 to 15 minutes a day to meditate.
No, 100% I agree with that. And you correctly said that, last week, prelims 2023 happened, and a lot of people were like very, very anxious about the paper. Everybody kept on saying that this was totally unpredictable and nobody could have predicted it. But, this is the beautiful thing about UPSC, that every year they throw these curveballs at, students. And despite of that, it's a level playing field for everyone. Because if it's tough and if it's unpredictable, then nobody else could also have been prepared for it. It was the same for everyone, more or less.
True, true. Rightly said.
Yeah. So, you quit a very, very lucrative career option and then you joined civil services. There is a separate debate going on that, we have glorified these government jobs in our country to a lot of extent. Do you agree with that? And is civil services everything that you hoped for?
So about this glorified government job, how I look at the services, especially IAS and IPS, only because I have been in both. I cannot speak for the other services. Is that it's a bunch of highly motivated individuals, and even the work profile that is cut out is in such a way that you can create as much work for yourself that you wish to do. That is, you
Right.
have a lot of freedom to explore newer areas, to do initiatives from your own interests. So I'll just talk about my own work because I cannot speak for the others. Is that I've joined the services just recently. I'm still working as assistant collector under training. And my
Right.
collector, sir, who is my training collector, has been kind enough to give me the freedom to explore the areas that interest me. And only in 10 months, that too as a trainee collector, I've been able to implement a lot of initiatives that interest me. So I've been able to
Right.
do an upcycled playground initiative. I've been able to create an HR management within the district employees to inspire them. We did an initiative focusing on positive reinforcement theory for the district officials. And I'm working on using interactive AI to develop. This is in the pipelines. I'm not telling you a lot about it. This is just to give you an idea that I could already work out so many initiatives. I'm working on one initiative which is to improve livelihoods for Etikapaka toy artisans. So these are the kind of diverse initiatives I do not think we would have been able to do it in the private sector. At least in the beginning years of the service, this is all I've hoped for and even more. This keeps me
Yes.
busy and this gives me the scope to expand my work profile in the directions where I'm interested. Of
Yeah.
course, there's a lot of humdrum routine work that is also there. However, there's other side where you can explore your interests and do this. So far it's been amazing.
Yes, ma'am. I always say that, rest of the professions that there are jobs, and this is service. This is a service. So I think that, distinct, that makes it stand out from every other profession because we can do so much for the society. We can give back as much as we want to. Um, so, last but not the least, I'd like to ask you that as a woman, what is one message that you want to give to other women? Because I think somebody, I don't remember who said this, I think Shanta Trivedi said this, that, without financial independence, there is no use of political independence, especially for women. So, this profession gives you a stable financial independent career along with respect. And I'd like you to say something to the girls who are sitting at some remote area, at a peripheral area, and they aspire to do something good with their life. They want to break the shackles and move on. They want to do something different than what is expected of them. So I'd like you to give them a message.
So my message is that always self-belief can take us farther than anything else can. So all of us are capable of clearing the exams, doing well as administrators, and the civil services, it is in need of having more and more women in the services. We need to have half the administrators need to be women, just like half the people in the society are women. So my message to women and girls, especially those from rural backgrounds or from remote areas, is that do not give up no matter what anybody else has to say. Unless you want to give up, then it's a different issue. But as long as you
Fair
want
point.
to crack the exam, as long as you want to prepare, just have faith in yourself. Just have faith in the process. Give your best within whatever time you have. Utilize it to the best of your capabilities, and it's a beautiful world that awaits you. When you have an independent career, when you're, like you said, when you're economically independent, a lot of doors open for you. So
Yes.
do not give up, have faith, and keep working hard. It is possible to crack the exam and to be a good administrator.
That's so true, ma'am. Very correctly said. It was a very, very informative and, enriching session. I think we covered most of the aspects of names. So thank you so much for joining us on a Sunday. Uh, I know it's a holiday, but we had to schedule it today. So thank you so much for taking time out and, talking with us and with such passion and for helping us. I have to say this personally that your notes are really, really good. I went through your blog and everything that you said, I resonated with it and it was just fantastic and
No,
very
thank you
helpful.
so much for having me. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to interact with aspirants. I see a lot of them putting comments and everything. I haven't done this in a long
Yes.
time. I guess going forward, I'll try to do this more often. You yourself were so informed about the exam, and I really had fun having this conversation with you. Thank you.